to minimize your own involvement with regard to that individual. That reduces the risk of cross-pollution, it reduces the risk of you giving that narcissist fuel, and it reduces the risk of you suffering an adverse consequence. However, of course, as an empath, your empathic traits are bristling. You want to ensure that your friend doesn't suffer the same fate that you did with another narcissist. You want them to see the truth as what is occurring. In this instance, there is action that you can take, but be warned, you are unlikely to meet with success. What you ought to do is explain to this individual that you believe that there are reasons to be concerned about the person that they are dating or in a relationship with. Rather than immediately start to preach to them that this person is a narcissist because they do A, B, and C, a better approach is to suggest to this individual that you've seen things that have concerned you and to ask, how are they? Invite them to talk to you about the behaviours. Indeed, they may already have begun to do so, and that's how you realise that they're involved with the narcissist. In such circumstances, it is not appropriate for you to observe the behaviour from distance and then to interfere by saying, I've been watching your relationship with, let's call him Trevor, and I think this person's a narcissist. First of all, the individual you're speaking to, your friend, may not know anything about narcissism. Furthermore, they are unlikely to take kindly to you preaching at them. People don't like to be told how to think. Thirdly, their own emotional thinking will be high. Think back to when you were first ensnared. Perhaps somebody did try to warn you about the person that you were dealing with, and you ignored it. Remember why? You didn't believe it. You were so in love with this individual, so enraptured in how wonderful you believed them to be. Or you thought that they were envious, that the fact that you'd got somebody and they had not. And this was all driven by your emotional thinking. And your friend is likely to be in a similar place. It is worth you attempting once to point out that the individual that they are with is causing them problems and is engaging in abusive behaviour. You do not need to begin by explaining that they are dealing with a narcissist. Instead, point out that the behaviours, having listened to them, are inappropriate and explain why. If the person that you're talking to engages in agreeing that they're inappropriate and can't understand why, then you can open up the discussion and move it towards explaining that you believe the individual is a narcissist, because you've started to push on an open door. If you go in cold and say, I think your relationship is with a narcissist, the person's defences are going to come down. They'll feel criticised, they'll feel defensive, and you will get nowhere. Indeed, you run the risk of prompting a hoover from that narcissist against you, because the fresh victim, or the current victim, may well say, my friend Amanda thinks that you're a narcissist, isn't that silly? That will, of course, threaten that narcissist's control. And, through the assertion of control, you will either receive a direct hoover being told to mind your own business, or you'll be smeared to your friend, potentially risking your friendship. Counsel of perfection would be to look to your own defences and ensure that you stay away and be ready to support your friend when it all goes horribly wrong. You may find that painful, you may think that's unfair, but in all of this, your own defences must come first. I appreciate that clashes with your empathic perspective, but I'm giving you the right advice for you. Your role isn't to go around saving people, tempting as it might be. If you do not accord with that approach, then the way to deal with the matter is to invite that individual to talk about the relationship, to talk about how they are feeling, to see if they open up to you about what's going on, and then, because you're pushing on an open door, you can explain that you believe and agree that that the behaviours are problematic, and you can then start to explain why that is. Following on from that, the more that they listen, you can then explain to them that you believe that the individual is a narcissist. And you can then introduce them, for instance, to my work. What you don't do is go shoving it down their throat from the off. They'll reject it. So in the circumstances where you see that a friend is ensnared romantically with a narcissist, and you're likely to be right, that is the appropriate approach to go about exposing the narcissist to that person. What about if you've learned that there's a narcissist in the family? For instance, that you know that one of your parents is one, and you want to warn your siblings about the situation. Or, for instance, that you recognize that one of your children is a narcissist and you want to tell your spouse or other members of the family, and they're an adult narcissist. That is, your child is an adult narcissist. Again, in such circumstances, you ought not to preach to people. And, once again, the appropriate method would be to look to distance yourself. But if you feel moved to do it, you need to get the person to talk to you first. You might suggest, have you ever noticed that mum can be a bit controlling at times? And see what the response is. If the individual responds in a negative way or is uninterested, then in such instances, halt. You're not going to get anywhere. However, if the individual is receptive and says, yes, I've picked up on that, what do you think's behind it? Or you can see that they're upset because of the way that the parent or the sibling, etc., has behaved towards them. You have an opening, and then you can start to explain that you've seen a pattern of unpleasant and abusive behaviours. Remember, their own emotional thinking is likely to cause them to explain it away in the way that you once did, appertaining to the wrong focus. Allow them to explain, and then you can politely correct them. You need to gauge, are they embracing what you're saying, or if they're too resistant, then you ought to give up. Again, because the risk is that you will cause a ruction between you and the family member that you're talking to, and that could then get passed on to the narcissist, causing them to feel that their control over you is threatened, resulting in a malign hoover or smearing. So in those instances, there is room for you to engage in exposure where it is done very carefully by checking the lie of the land to see if that person wants to talk to you about the problems that they are experiencing. Invariably, this has to be when the individual is being subjected to devaluing behaviour by the narcissist. That will then mean that they are more likely to listen to you. If you try and expose a narcissist when they're seducing someone, forget it. You'll get nowhere. Their emotional thinking is so high, and they're being made to feel wonderful by that emotional thinking as a consequence of the benign behaviour of the narcissist towards them. Your attempts to get them to see will be rejected. You'll be accused of envy. You'll be accused of trying to spoil the relationship, that just because your relationship didn't work, that you see narcissists everywhere, and it will backfire. It is completely pointless trying to expose a narcissist while they're seducing. Unfortunately, you will have to wait until devaluation occurs, and where the individual starts to talk to you about their experiences and unpleasant behaviours, that gives you an opening. Only utilise the opening once. Do not keep banging the drum, because if the individual won't take it in the first time, it means the emotional thinking is too high. You need to back off and wait, and then they may come back to you in a few weeks saying, you know, a little while ago we were talking about John. He's been carrying on with this behaviour, and I want to talk to you about it. If the individual comes to you, you can then give them the benefit of your knowledge. But if you are seen to be diving in there, telling them how to live their life, criticising a person that they love, you're going to meet with considerable resistance, and there will be cross-pollution for you, the risk of a malign hoover, the risk of a loss of a friendship, increased emotional thinking, possibility of giving fuel to the narcissist, all of the relevant downsides that come with that involvement. What about the circumstances where you're talking about your narcissist in a romantic setting and you want to expose their behaviours to, say, family, to friends, to colleagues, etc.? Basically, tell the world at large, this person is a narcissist, you must have nothing to do with them. This, of course, is extremely tempting. This never happens when you're in seduction. You won't realise that this person is a narcissist, and you're being treated wonderfully and well. And therefore, you are not going to turn around and start saying to everybody, he's a narcissist, or she's a narcissist. It won't occur to you. Indeed, you may not even know at that juncture what narcissism is. Instead, this occurs whilst you're being devalued, more usually when you've been disengaged from and you're extremely hurt. Should you expose the narcissist to your friends, your family, colleagues, etc.? Often, what motivates this is the fact that you find out you're being smeared by the narcissist. That the narcissist is going around accusing you of being the abuser, that you're the cheat, that you're the liar, that you've stolen money, etc. This, of course, as an empathic victim, will offend your truth-seeker trait. And remember, because you are either still in the ensnarement or the formal relationship has recently ended, your emotional thinking is only going to be in one place, high, because you have been physically involved with the narcissist, you've had communications, you've been doing things in relation to the narcissist, and so on and so forth. You've been in all of those 5 arenas. Your emotional thinking, therefore, is going to be extremely high. It wants to continue you feeding the addiction, and therefore it'll con you by corrupting various empathic and narcissistic traits to make you want to expose the narcissist to other people. Taking such a step is contrary to your best interests. Here's why. You may describe the behaviours to a certain set of people who are completely on board with you. I describe them as the people in your camp. In that instance, it is acceptable to expose the narcissist and the narcissist behaviour to that group. Before you decide who you are going to talk to about it, you need to think very carefully, and this is often difficult because of your elevated emotional thinking, about who you're going to mention it to. I would recommend that you identify no more than, say, 3 people that you utilise as a close support network. A best friend, your parents, maybe your mother and your sister, a couple of friends and a parent. It has to be a small group because you don't want the risk to occur of an individual telling the narcissist about what you have been saying. This group has to be hermetically sealed. They keep the information to themselves. You need to emphasise to them that they are not to confront the narcissist about what you have told them, however tempting it might be to ride into battle on your behalf. That will not help you. The purpose of this exposure is to gain help in the immediate aftermath of escape or planning for that escape or following disengagement. It is a breach of no contact because you are taking steps in relation to that narcissist, thinking about the narcissist and talking about the narcissist with other people. However, for the purpose of securing short-term and immediate help, it is a legitimate exception, but it is not one that you should abuse. This isn't about exposing the narcissist to this small group of people to make you feel good, to get one over on the narcissist, to make those people hate the narcissist. It is about doing it to ensure that you get the help and support that you need to get away from the narcissist, to stay away from the narcissist. It is recruiting these individuals, if you like, into your action team, so that they are the ones that will help you plan for an escape or to help keep you safe post-disengagement or post-escape. They are the shoulders that you will cry on, but you mustn't do it for an elongated period. The advantage of well as identifying this close group is they will believe you. They won't question you. What you don't want is to pick somebody that you're going to put into this inner circle who will question you as to, are you really sure that has happened? Are you not overthinking this too much? Are you not perhaps looking at this in a jaundiced way? That is unhelpful because it will cause your emotional thinking to increase all the more as you try and justify why this person is a narcissist. You need to start off by explaining that you're being abused and that you need their help. And then you can expose the behaviours, and you do so with evidence. If you have recordings, video recordings, text messages, emails, provide that to those people so they can read it. Remember, many people have never experienced narcissism, and therefore it is often very difficult for them to understand. You have had a period of struggling to understand, and you may still be in that period because it seems like an alien concept. Therefore, you need to remember that when you're trying to tell somebody else about this, that you're trying to go into all of the ins and outs about the various interactions with the narcissist, the assertions of control, concepts such as gaslighting and circular conversations, it's a lot for that individual to take in. And therefore, you would be better served by explaining these are abusive behaviours, and then when they're on board with that, you can explain that you believe that you're dealing with a narcissist. Remember, this isn't about exposing them so those people it turns into a narc bashing session. That's a breach of no contact. It is not about exposing the narcissist so that those people then go around gossiping and telling everybody else that this person is a narcissist. That is contrary to your best interests. It is about securing a small group of people who can be trusted and relied on to provide you with the help that you need to get out and to stay out. And then once that has been achieved, that they are not to continually engage in asking you about the narcissist, because that will be a breach of no contact. They are there, if you like, as an immediate care package to enable you to get out of the relationship and to stay out of the relationship, to have that emotional support, possibly financial support, somewhere to stay, someone who will listen to you, so that you can ride out that immediate aftermath of the demise of the relationship and the potential hoovering of the narcissist. The exposure is not to attack the narcissist, but it is to secure help for yourself. Identify the individuals that you believe are in the camp of the narcissist, and don't bother trying to tell them who the narcissist is. It is completely pointless. This group will be the family of the narcissist, the friends of the narcissist, the colleagues of the narcissist. Tempting as it is, because you are hurt and you're upset, you're angry, you want justice, it's extremely tempting for you to get into your war chariot and go riding off to these people and say, Tom is a narcissist, he's a fucking arsehole, and he's done this and he's done that towards me. Because you want everybody to know that he's such a low-life douchebag piece of shit. That is not going to help you. Why? Many of these people won't believe you because you've already been smeared, and therefore you're going up against an impenetrable wall. You will most likely present in a manner whereby you are somewhat hysterical, upset, and angry, and the narcissist will have presented as cool as a cucumber and no doubt warned these people that you are a crazy, psycho person. And then all you will do is live up to the smearing that has occurred. You'll become more frustrated. You're breaching no contact because you're talking about the narcissist with other people. This will increase your emotional thinking. You'll become frustrated. And this information will get back to the narcissist, meaning it will threaten the narcissist's control. You've just kicked the hornet's nest. This means you may be subjected to malign hoovers, or as a minimum, the narcissist will smear you harder to all of this group, solidifying their jaundiced view of you. Your emotional thinking will be screaming at you to tell all of these people because it's the right thing to do. Your truth-seeking trait will be corrupted by this elevated emotional thinking, yelling at you, tell them all. Everybody needs to know what a despicable scumbag he is, and he isn't the good son that he portrays himself to be, that he isn't the sound friend that he makes on that he actually is. You have to resist that temptation and jettison it. You will not succeed. You are wasting your resources fighting a battle that you cannot win. And you are inviting further defeats by way of smearing and additional hoovering. If you take this action, you will end up providing fuel to the narcissist. We win. You will suffer adverse consequences. These people won't believe you. They may actually be quite unpleasant to you. There could be repercussions in terms of suggesting that you're slandering the narcissist, inviting legal action. It might be that these individuals see you as harassing them, resulting in restraining orders being sought. Or the narcissist does this on the basis that you're spreading horrible, malicious lies. Of course you're not. But remember, other parties don't necessarily know this. There is no need for you to tell these people. There is no need for you to expose the narcissist to this group. They're not going to help you, and all you're doing is waging a completely unnecessary war that you're going to lose. I know it's tempting to want people to know what this person is, but it's pointless doing it where they're not going to believe you. And the people that are in the narcissist camp are brainwashed. Tempting as it is to get them to see the reality of what the narcissist is, it's futile, and you must forget it. Then there is the middle ground group, and this is the largest group. What about telling them? Well, you can, but don't expect them to do anything about it. Exposing the narcissist to those individuals will be met probably with sympathy, but these are the individuals who sort of sit with a foot in both camps, mutual friends, perhaps a family member who likes both of you. These individuals are likely to be the normals, the nose-down normals as I call them, who just want to get on through life. There is no point exposing the narcissist to this group for the following reasons. Whilst they won't be hostile to you, as the narcissist camp is likely to be, and they'll give you a sympathetic ear, it won't lead anywhere. They're unlikely to provide help. They're too interested in their own lives because they're normals, and they will also feel compromised. I'd love to help, but you're both my friends, therefore I can't be seen to be taking sides. You'll end up frustrated and upset because you'll want to convince them that you're the good person and the narcissist is the bad person, and that they should take a side. You'll end up then telling them how to think. People don't like that. And you risk alienating this individual, and indeed pushing them into the camp of the narcissist. Therefore, such action can backfire. You don't actually need their assistance. You've got your small group together. Those are the ones that will assist you. And tempting as it is to try and counter the smearing that has occurred, tempting as it is to try and get people to understand the truth of it, you are better off focusing on your own no-contact regime. These individuals, ultimately, even if they accepted what you said, they forget about it. It becomes tomorrow's fish and chip paper. They're too caught up in their own lives, not because they're bad people, but it's the way that they have to be to get through life. And they don't have, as some people would say, the bandwidth to deal with your affairs on top of their own. It's not because they're cruel and unpleasant people, but the way that their emotional empathy works is to look to those very close to themselves, and they haven't got additional to be dealing with your problems. They will also fall prey to platitudes such as 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, no smoke without fire, takes two to tango. And of course, as you know, those comments are completely inapplicable when you're ensnared by a narcissist. But it is pointless you going down that route. All you'll do is get frustrated, irritated, upset. You risk losing that person as a friend, family member, colleague, etc. You risk pushing them into the narcissist's camp. You will be increasing your emotional thinking because talking about the narcissist with this person is a breach of no contact. You also risk the individual telling the narcissist, saying, I think you should know that Sally has been saying this about you. That, of course, as I've explained earlier, threatens the narcissist's control, resulting in a risk that the narcissist will then hoover you or smear you. You may also be portrayed as a gossip, a nasty person for going around spreading these apparent lies. So when it comes to exposing the narcissist to the world at large in the context of friends and family, colleagues and neighbours, the general rule is don't do it, because you'll end up providing fuel. The narcissist wins. You will cause a hoover trigger, meaning that you're likely to be hoovered to shut you up. You will suffer adverse consequences. You'll be frustrated, irritated, upset, annoyed. Your emotional thinking will soar, which will mean you'll make further bad decisions and it will hinder your progress. When it comes to this tempting exposure, what you must do is first select your squad, your team, those close confidants who can be relied upon, who will look to support you, that will ensure that they have nothing more to do with the narcissist, that they will shield you from the narcissist, that if the narcissist tries to hoover you through them, they will reject that. that they will be supportive and provide you with the resources and understanding that you need to escape the ensnarement and thereafter maintain that escape as part of the go-so. It is extremely tempting to want everybody to know that the narcissist is a narcissist. But for the reasons that I've explained, this is about looking to your own defences and doing the right thing. The world doesn't need to know what that individual is, and invariably you will fail. Because one group will not want to know, the other group will be largely uninterested because they're involved in their own lives. And of course, it feels unfair to you, and your emotional thinking capitalises on that. You think it's unfair that the narcissist can go around saying things about you. Basically, if people believe the narcissist, query, do you really want those people in your life anyway? You shouldn't be wasting your time trying to persuade them to the contrary. The only time where that you need to do that is where it will impact upon your livelihood, or perhaps your reputation of professional standing, affecting your ability to practice as a doctor or a lawyer or a therapist, such like, and their legal proceedings should be looked at. But invariably when it comes to the exposure of a narcissist to friends and family and colleagues and neighbours, you need to look to your own defences, assemble that close-knit team that will be supportive of you, and focus on your no-contact regime, and resist the lure of the emotional thinking to take you down unproductive avenues that are unproductive for the reasons that I have explained to you. This has been part 2 of How to Expose a Narcissist. Now, I've gone into more detail than I originally envisaged, and therefore part 3 will focus upon where you are considering exposing the behaviour of a narcissist to professionals, such as an employer, social workers, court-appointed psychologists, therapists, etc. Also, the situation of utilising that within court proceedings, building the evidence in that regard, as there are separate considerations which are applicable to the exposure of a narcissist in those scenarios. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.